Hello mathematicians and welcome back to Circle Equations. Hopefully you had a fun time with the last video and the last set of problems. So with this video we're going to talk about circle equations but in cases where we're not given the radius. So we're going to have to do a little bit of more work. Now if we remember, I had said that the radius is this line right here. It is the it is a line that goes from the center to any outer point on a circle, right? So this is also radius, and this is also radius, and that's also radius. And if I measure these three lines, they all give me the same number. So it doesn't matter in what direction they choose, they are exactly the same. Now the radius is not just a random number. The radius is the distance, right? The distance between a point on the circle and the center. So if we know the distance that a point on a circle and the center is, that is equal to our radius, okay? So we're going to be using this formula right here to find that distance. Because if we find the distance, we can substitute it for our radius with our circle equations, okay? Again, the formula is a little scary, but just like anything in math, we'll get through it and we know more than we think we know, okay? So let's go ahead and start off with the first example. So we're going to write the equation of a circle with the center of 4, -2. Let me highlight that. And a point 0.62. So notice they did not give us a radius. When they do not give me a radius, this tells me that I should be using this formula right here, okay? Now, something that might be new with this formula is if we notice, we have something called subscripts, okay? And what subscripts are is that it's a little number that goes at the bottom of a variable. We're not used to that. Usually we're used to seeing exponents like up here, but this one's different. So what you need to know about subscripts is that they're talking about different points, okay? So to explain this, I'm going to go ahead and start working on this problem, okay? So I'm going to write down my 2 points. So I have points 4, -2, which is my center. And I have 6, 2, if I wrote that correctly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to choose which one's going to be my first set of points and which one's going to be my second one, okay? So maybe right here I'll put points number 1 or set number 1. And this will be set number 2. It does not matter which order you choose these sets as long as you are consistent, okay? So that means that for my x values for set number 1, it is the number 4 because this is the x's, right? And my y values for my first set is equal to -2, okay? Likewise, my x value for my second set is 6, and my y value for my second set is 2. So I'm using these little numbers, my subscripts, which are these right here, to tell me which set belongs to which, okay? So now I'm just gonna plug it in, okay? So I have d equals, oh, let me write this a little higher. D equals the square root. So now I have x2. Oh, x2 is 6. It's this one right here. Minus x1. Oh, it's this one now. So minus 4. I close the parenthesis and then I square it. Plus my y value of my second set. So it's going to be 2. Minus my y value of my first one, which is -2. Now remember, it's minus my y, it's minus the value. So I'm going to put two minuses because my value is -2. So it's going to be minus a -2, okay? You have to be very careful about that. I see a lot of mistakes being done like that. So a couple of things to notice. My greens are always the first one and my blues are always the second one. That lets me know that I was consistent, okay? If you did this correctly, it should look like this. And if we take a closer look, this is my first set. No, this is my second set, which is correct. And then the back ones should be my first set, okay? So they should match up in the positions they are at. So now I'm just going to clean this up. So I have D equals parentheses 6 minus 4 is 2 squared plus. Now remember that a 2, oh, I'm sorry, not a 2. But when I have these two negatives right here, this gives me a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. So this becomes 2 plus 2, which is a 4. So plus 4 squared, okay? Let's keep going. 2 squared is 4. Remember that is 2 times 2. And 4 squared is 4 times 4. So 4 plus 16. 4 plus 16 is 20. So I'm going to stop here, okay? I know that you might want to plug this into the calculator. Don't plug it in yet. Leave it like this as a square root, and you're going to see why right now. So this D that we're looking at is this distance. So this D is technically our R. So instead of D, you can say it is our radius. So now we just have to plug it into our formula. So if you need to, you can look at the back, but I know it off the back of my head. Remember that this is our center. We're not going to use this one because that's just a random point. We need our center. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. So it's going to be x minus 4 squared plus y minus -2 squared equals this last answer we just got. The square root of 20. And this whole thing is squared. I put parentheses because I'm letting myself know that the whole thing is squared, okay? So let's go ahead and clean it up. X minus 4 stays like that. Plus, I have a double negative, so this becomes a negative times a negative, which is a positive. So it becomes y plus 2 squared. And lastly, on this right-hand side, if you remember a square root, let me make this a little smaller. A square root and a square are opposites. When you put them together, they cancel each other out. So this 2 and this square root is going to cancel out, and what I'm left with is a 20. That's why I said don't bother plugging it into a calculator. It's going to end up disappearing. And there we have it. This is our equation. So what you need to do is this extra step now of finding out your radius, because we're not given radius sometimes. So go ahead and try the rest of these problems out if you want to, or you can also jump onto Delta Math.